Thanks for your patience, everyone. I'm Jackie Day, and I'm really happy to be here, and thank you all for also being here. I know today's a big day with lots of stuff going on, including tonight, so it's really nice to see everyone here. Quick question. I did give a talk yesterday on creating compassionate schools. Because I'm talking about Big Ag, obviously there is some overlap here. Just a show of hands, who was also here for my talk yesterday? Yay! Hi. You have my permission to leave if you get bored when we have the overlap. I just wanted to mention that there's a little bit where we do talk about schools again. So again, thank you for being here. I'm going to be talking about food politics today and how Big Ag infiltrates our lives and a few things we can do to help curtail that. And let's see, anyone know where I point this to make it work?
No, you have to point that, and maybe you're too far away.
Here we go. Oh.
I think you have to push the side ones.
There we go. Thank you. The Farm Bill. Many of you might already be aware of the Farm Bill, but basically it's hundreds and hundreds of pages. It's something that gets reevaluated about every 5 years, and it's quite contested when it does because so many billions of dollars are impacted by it. It was originally set up by Roosevelt in the 1930s, and it was just really to help farmers out during the post-Depression era. And if you think about it, that's nice. Who doesn't want to help out small farms during, the Depression and when they're recovering? However, it was never intended to be permanent, and here we are, 2016, and it still exists. Covered under the Farm Bill are commodities, and these are hugely important. A majority of the funding goes to corn and other grains, which are used for high fructose corn syrup and most predominantly for grains that are fed to animals for Big Ag. Also, the government has given a huge amount of money. Just since 1995 to 2012, there's been $292.5 billion in subsidies. That makes it less expensive for the farmers. The Price Loss Coverage Act is one that's involved in the new one that was just signed under Obama, along with the agricultural risk coverage. And what this does, it ensures that if the prices fluctuate or if your crop is ruined, don't worry, government's going to give you money and you'll be okay. It's kind of like a handout, even though a lot of people get upset about handouts, quote unquote, they don't realize how much the government's giving in the form of a handout to Big Ag. Who exactly is getting all this money? Your guess is as good as mine, because just before the 1,000-page document was signed, they took out the disclosure clause. So now you can't even figure out which people in the Big Ag industry are getting these billions of dollars. They created a plate, as you may have seen, which took the place of the triangle, and it does have more fruits and vegetables, at least by appearance on there. However, you would think that, well, if they're going to subsidize farmers for good food, that they would make the subsidies be at least half fruits and vegetables. After all, that's what they say is good for people to eat. However, the money is mostly going to corn and grains that are fed to the animals instead of to the healthy fruits and vegetables, which we all know are good for us to eat. Less than 14.7% of the subsidies support the fruits and vegetables. This keeps cheap, greasy food that's high in saturated fat and cholesterol easy to access for people as they want it to be. And it keeps things that we know are healthier, such as things for a plant-based diet, more expensive. Here's where most of it's going. On first glance, you might think, well, I eat grains, that's good. I'm glad they're subsidizing the grains, but those grains really aren't going towards us when you think about, making rice for dinner. These grains are going to feed the animals. As you know, it takes many, many pounds of grains to produce 1 pound of meat, along with all of the thousands of gallons of water. So if you were to break it down, the cost of a Big Mac to society, if you took away the subsidies and you counted in for healthcare costs, it would actually be $12. Pretty shocking. But instead, we as consumers are picking that up with our taxes by covering, medical care for people who can't afford it and other things, when actually it's Big Ag who should be footing the tab. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Louise Light. She was on the panel of the first top 10 nutritionists put together for the food pyramid. And she submitted it along with her other 9 people working on it, what they thought would be healthy in the healthy categorization. But the U.S. Department of Agriculture altered her wording to emphasize processed foods over fresh whole foods, and to downplay lean meats and low-fat dairy choices because the meat and dairy lobbied her. And I put the exact words up there because this isn't just my opinion, those are her words and exact quotes. They also changed her recommendation of 5 to 9 servings of fresh fruit and changed it down to 2 to 3 servings. Again, this is government people changing the recommendations of the top nutritionists. The meat lobby got the final word on saturated fat and cholesterol guideline, and it was changed. And also they changed the coloring from red to purple because they thought red would alert everyone and buy less of the product.
What was the time frame?
When that was back in the 70s, the first one. Here is how many people have heard of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine? They're fantastic. This is their vegan plate. So if you want materials on what would be a really good example of a plant-based food plate, I would recommend going to their website, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. The American Egg Board is another thing which impacts us very greatly. I'm sure you've heard, how many people have heard of the recent mayo wars? Right, so Hampton Creek, who some of you may know, they're up here actually in San Francisco. They are doing fantastic. Their sales are doing great, and they are replacing eggs in products, and one of which was the mayo. And Unilever got really upset and threatened to file a lawsuit because they said, you should not be called mayo if there's no eggs in there. That's not fair. We want you to buy our product. Well, in the end, the lawsuit ended up being dropped, and Unilever went off and made its own mayo because, if you can't beat them, join them. They're not stupid. They know the new wave. So those are actually, their new product is actually in tons of mainstream stores now. So that competition actually brought out something really wonderful so mainstream America can get it pretty easily. So the federal investigation, there was found also, how many people just saw what broke really recently in the past few days regarding the findings? They tried to sneak it out really quietly, but there was an investigation over the Egg Board going after Hampton Creek. Is anyone familiar with that? Yeah, so we all knew this would happen, but of course it took them forever, and then when they exposed it, it was very quietly because they didn't want people to see. But they found that the American Egg Board, which is overseen by the government, spent almost $60,000 trying to get people to not buy their product and to buy eggs instead, which is a big fat no-no for a government agency oversight to do. They said they wanted to put a hit out on Josh Tetrick, the CEO. They claimed that was, just joking, but still to think that someone would write that as horrible. And they also hired a PR firm to also try to get all the bloggers to go against them. And they also, if you search for Hampton Creek or Just Mayo or Josh Tetrick, they paid money to make ads come up so you'd click on the wonderful eggs ads. And that's huge. This isn't a private company that's doing this. These are people that work for the government. So really, really, really horrible. But In a way, this is almost a good sign because this is how scared they are. Here's just, a vegan mayo company, and they are so scared that they're going to these extreme measures. Unfortunately, there were no criminal charges on this. These are just civil, basically just giving, recommendations, don't do this again. It would be nice if it was bigger and better. Joanne Ivy, who was in charge, she retired early, so she's already long gone, so they couldn't do anything against her. But at least it's in the press and people realize what's going on, and this is, of course, all big ag. There's also the price fixing that just happened. How many people saw what they just did to cows? Huge class action lawsuit that just settled. $9.5 billion in alleged industry-wide price fixing. So what the big dairy producers did is they went out and they bought the smaller herds because they wanted their prices to go up. And as soon as they got the smaller herds of cows, they killed them all. And they killed I think it was half a million cows they just killed. I mean, huge amount. And so if anyone bought dairy, you can now get money back as part of the class action lawsuit. A lot of us never bought dairy all these years, but this was going on for about 7 years, so you can actually go to the website and say you bought it. You don't need any receipts, and they'll give you back money for doing this because it's so horrendous. Antibiotics, another way big ag is infiltrating us. As you know, most antibiotics don't go to people, they go to the animals. And why is that? Well, it's because they live in such bad situations that they would die if they didn't pump them full of drugs. It's extremely contaminated in there, and you can imagine if you put a lot of animals squished together in a small place, they get ill. And so they're constantly, about 80% of our antibiotics go to animals. Well, to get politicians their support, one little thing they do is pet night on Capitol Hill, and it's sponsored by the Animal Health Institute. And anyone who's up on Capitol Hill, the politicians can get their pictures taken with cute little animals. Sandy from Annie this year, they just had it again in September, and Buttercup from the Hunger Games. And there's a lot of schmoozing going on. Well, that's okay. Animal Health Institute, they must be nice, right? Bayer and Merck are just a couple of the pharmaceutical companies, but they're all pharmaceutical companies. There's no animal welfare organization at all on the list. It's all sponsored by these people because they're pushing antibiotics for the animals. Big Ag also loves schools too, and here's why. There are compulsory attendance laws, as you guys know. You can't just not go to school. So if they don't, there's stiff penalties, fines to up to $1,500. There's court fees. You can even go to jail. And one mom died in jail over the weekend simply because she wasn't sending her kid to school. And sadly, she died while she was there. So this brand loyalty creates big bucks, and it's in the formative years, and they know that. My firsthand experience was from when a student held up this little good thing of juice that looked really nice and healthy, and she said, "Do you mind if we sell this at school?" And I'm like, "I'm sure it's okay to sell this juice. That looks nice and healthy, pure juice. I'll just put a note in the financial manager's mailbox. I'm sure it'll be fine." So the next day I got a note back, and it said, "Sorry, this would conflict with our soda contract." I thought, soda contract, what's that? I asked around, no one knew about it, and I'm like, I need to see what this is. And it turned out it was going to be expiring shortly, and I go, we better act fast on this. And one thing led to another, and I found out the dark side of the soda industry, which led me to look into the other industries too, because they just love marketing to kids. How much money is involved with kids? Well, they spend about $140 billion a year of their own money, but even bigger are their global purchases of $1.88 trillion. It's lifelong loyalty, and if you think about it, it's not just them spending their allowance. They're saying, "Hey, Mom, buy this cereal. Hey, Mom, I want this, that, the other in the store, or I want this for Christmas." So they know that, and this is when kids decide what they like and what they don't like. Well, you crave Taco Bell or McDonald's. And if you think about it, you're either a Coke or a Pepsi person if you still drink soda. Usually that's also developed when you're a teenager. I'm sure there's some diehard fans here for one or the other. Or will they want dairy milk or a soy milk alternative? They do things for schools. They buy them marquees. And when we were trying to figure out what was going on, you couldn't even see another school's contract. So you had no idea how much money each school was getting or what gifts they were getting. Now there's a sunshine clause, but it's still hard to find out. Compassion or cruelty, Big Ag weaves its way into grants and prizes, school food, reading materials, math assignments, classroom posters, art projects, science projects, Future Farmers of America, and 4-H clubs. A lot of these things are sponsored by Big Ag because they have a captive audience. Here's some examples. Posters. Big Ag loves to come into schools and plaster posters everywhere, usually with athletes trying to say that they'll get strong bones. We know from studies that men, for example, who had 3 servings of dairy a day actually broke more bones than those who had just 1. Dairy Milk School posters say you're going to be strong. They say you'll be smart, so drink up. They also have some poster contests. 3 scoops of dairy does a body good. Yeah, 3 scoops of that dairy ice cream does a body real good. I'm not making this up. They also, believe it or not, sponsor school-wide mustache parties. And what they do is if you participate in this, you will get a free digital camera for your school, and we will send you 500 mustaches for all the kids to put on their face. And all you have to do is take a picture and put it up in the hallway, and everyone will love it. Unbelievable. Teachers also run contests that are sponsored by them. This one was a class goal where they had to write how many servings of dairy they would eat in 3 days. And they had to track their dairy servings, and if the students met their goal, they got a gift card to Walmart to buy something for the classroom. So bottom line, if you eat dairy, they're going to give you money. There's also grants and prizes. There's Teachers McDonald's Night. Who wouldn't trust their teacher and administrator? They must be telling the truth, right? They're your teacher. They know what's best for you. Can you imagine your teachers telling you to go to McDonald's because they're going to feed you? And that's healthy. Scary. They also have fundraisers and awards. They still do this, where if you have perfect attendance, I've seen them, they give you an In-N-Out burger gift certificate because, you know, if someone's nice and healthy and going to school every day, you want to make sure they get sick with some In-N-Out burgers. Big Ag also does a Fuel Up to Play in 60 games, and if you participate in this, you're going to get all sorts of cool stuff. You can get equipment for the cold storage of your milk, or you can get posters depicting dairy cows, and they also encourage you, while you're getting this free stuff and applying for it, to also get the community involved as well. Fat, greasy food, contracts, Big Ag subsidies are all part of the NSL program. So when a school cafeteria manager orders their food, they look at the commodities list. Because a lot of people might think, well, why can't schools just serve healthy food? Well, even if they want to, a lot of times cafeterias, to save money, they order off the commodities list, and that's where you're going to find all those subsidized products. So, what do you think are the cheap products on the list? Type of hot dogs, type of meats and greasy stuff, right? And then remember we said what products were not subsidized very much? So what's expensive? The fresh fruits and vegetables. So you might have someone who means well, but they're looking at this list with a limited amount of budget at a public school, and they're trying to make ends meet. Not that we're giving them an excuse to do it, but that's the reality of the situation. I'll give you an example. There's a picture of greasy pizza coming up, but They really know how to work the system. I was at a conference speaking several years ago, and I could not believe that they were able to sell this greasy pepperoni pizza to the kids at lunch. I thought, gosh, there's laws here. This can't possibly meet the regulations because it's so disgusting and greasy. Even if you don't care about animals, you've got to care about health, and this doesn't make sense. Well, cafeteria manager explained to me that they had figured things out. Here's what she did. She put sugar in the pizza dough. That made the calorie content shoot way up, and guess what makes it look like it's not very much? The greasy fat. So now in proportion to the high calories, you have a very limited amount of greasy saturated fat, and she managed to make it work. So not only are you getting a really disgusting, greasy, saturated fat, antibiotic-laden pizza, you're getting extra white sugar in it too. School districts and independent schools who choose to take part in it for each meal, in return, they have to serve these that meet the federal guidelines. How many kids are eating these foods? Over 31.6 million children every year, and over 244 billion since 1946. And keep in mind, you're still building this loyalty. These kids are used to this food. It's what they're eating at school every day. So when they grow up, that's their taste buds are forming to eating this. Cost to government, $11.6 billion just in the fiscal year 2012. Big bucks for unhealthy food. Guess where the money comes from for these subsidies? All of us. Oops. Let's see, I don't know what this is connected to, but I think we're still all working. Okay. All right. And so there's the greasy pizza. Does that look like a nice meal? Don't worry, I'm going to show you some good meals in a second. I never like to leave people unempowered. Yeah, so that's where our tax money is going. Isn't it beautiful? And our tax money is also going to helping them get healthy after they're in the hospital, too. It's horrible. Reading materials. Big Ag loves this type of stuff. Look how horrible this is. Do any of these zoo animals or farm animals look anything remotely like they do in their real situation? They're slowly desensitizing students so that they don't realize what they're doing. Holiday art projects. They don't look anything like the turkeys that are, upside down going through the electrolyzed water with their throats slit, does it? No, it just looks like a happy little colorful turkey. That's not how turkeys come to our plate. But how many kids have done this assignment? This is really horrible. So there are mobile dairy classrooms, and they visit. California alone has 6 of these trucks. And to bring a real-life situation to the kids, Big Ag schleps around a dairy mama cow and her baby boy. And we all know what happens to the baby boys, right? They're not going back to the dairy farm. They're going to the veal industry to be stuck in a little crate in dark so that their flesh stays anemic, fed on a liquid diet, and in such a small environment that they can't turn around so that their flesh will stay soft and pink for fancy folks who like veal. So, but the kids don't see that. They just see the dairy cow and giving milk. Teachers love this program. Not teachers like me and you and other teachers, but a lot of teachers love this because they say it lets students have a real-world kinds of experiences involving dairy milk production. And a program like this helps connect the things they eat to where they actually come from. Right. What are they getting? They get free visits and they get free curriculum. Big Ag loves to sponsor free curriculum in the classroom because most teachers like to have it done for them. That saves them some time, and it will leave it as a substitute lesson plans as well. And they're all aligned with Common Core standards. They're really on top of their game here. Sample text. Look at how horrible this is. Dairy cows are farm animals. They produce the milk we drink and use to make other foods like cheese, butter, and ice cream. Dairy farmers take good care of their cows and feed them well. Every day, milk cows eat alfalfa and grain. They also drink a lot of water. Sometimes the cows graze and eat grass on a pasture. Cows that are well fed will produce more and better milk. So this is teaching the kids that they're actually taking really good care of the cows, and there's incentive for them to take good care of the cows too. Again, it's all brainwashing because we know this isn't what's happening. So, I don't know if you could see the cow there, but there's all the kids looking at the cow with the gentleman who's trying to give them a nutrition exercise on why it's important that they should eat milk. And it's pretty horrible. 400,000 students a year get exposed to this. They also try to slowly desensitize them through dissection. And as you know, when you're desensitized to animals, it doesn't just stop with animals. A lot of people who abuse animals go on to abuse people too. Jeffrey Dahmer's a great example of someone who impaled dog and cat heads and stuck them on his front lawn before he went on to eating people. And so the last thing you want to do is to tell children to be disrespectful to animals. They infiltrate assignments. Check out this math assignment. 90 students went to the zoo. 3 had hamburger, milk, and cake. 5 had milk and hamburger. 10 had cake and milk. 8 had cake and it goes on and on. How many bad things are in that one lesson, teaching the kids that, hey, this is normal and fun. Let's learn math like this. Horrible. Future Farmers of America, another example. How many people have heard of Future Farmers of America? Yeah, that's really sad because not only are they raising animals to eat, they're getting kids to bond with the animals and raise them and take care of them, and then they're all sold for slaughter, usually at the county fair. And it's heartbreaking. I was called in by a student who was having a horrible situation in Florida. There was a pig at her school being raised named Bacon. And it was time for Bacon to be sold at the county fair, and she was really upset, as you can imagine. So I went down there and I piled the kids into a van, and we went down to the school board meeting, and we begged someone to do something so they wouldn't lose the cow or the cow wouldn't be slaughtered. And thankfully, we're very fortunate, one school board member offered to go to the fair, and when they auctioned her, he was going to buy her. And of course, that's not the best of all possible worlds. You don't want them to have a penny, but this was really important to these students. So he went down there, and of course, the other side knew what was going on, so they kept raising the price because they knew there was no way this gentleman was going to let these kids down. So he paid a lot of money, but she went on to become named Daisy and lives out her life in Tennessee on a farm for rescued animals. So that at least had a happy ending. But imagine how many kids are going through this who aren't making a call to someone to help and just have to deal with losing someone that they've become close to. Again, it's desensitization from Big Ag. There are tons of solutions, though. You can do taste tests, you can do festivals, guest speakers, plant-based curriculum. Anything they do, we can do plant-based for the animals. Anything. So posters, anything you can think of. Just, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You kind of just take their best practices and apply them to us and go out there and just do it. There's alternatives to dissection. This is much better than dissecting the frog. The kids actually learn more because they also go into the ecology, so there's no disconnect. No, this frog didn't just appear in this lab. This frog actually came from a certain place, and he's important to that ecology. Here's one example. It shows where the frog came from, and on the real thing, you can press the button, and the frog gribbets. This one actually makes a really loud and wonderful gribbet that I'm sure the kids love when they hear it. And it's good sound science. There's also plant-based nutrition music. This one's really cheery and fun if anyone's involved with elementary schools, or if you have children in elementary school. This is a really fun one to listen to. Paul McCartney did a Meat Free Monday song. Who's heard of Meat Free Mondays? Yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, Monday's not enough. Well, for some people, that's what it takes to first start off. Try it out for Monday, and you might be going the rest of the week. It's definitely a good foot in the door. Healthy school posters. So for every milk poster, trust me, there's lots of people making super cool healthy posters too. This one's happened to be from the healthyschoolfood.org website if anyone wants healthy posters. You can also go to school board meetings to speak out. This is us. I was holding a little piggy bank there. The kids were saving up money to take to the fair, but they didn't end up having to spend their money because of the school board member. But those are all the kids that went down to the school board to try to save Bacon, who's now named Daisy. Also, always use best practices. This is Muse. And I don't know if you recognize, that's Jim Cameron and his wife, Susie. And how many people have heard of Muse? Muse is a super cool place. It's a 100% plant-based school down in Calabasas. So people are moving forward and making it happen, and they're saying, no thanks, Big Ag, we'll take care of this. We want our kids to be smart and learn and be healthy. And so his wife and her sister, Rebecca, started Muse. This is like an aerial view. It's absolutely gorgeous. Summer before last, I was able to go visit. And it's solar powered. James Cameron developed these huge sunflowers, and they power almost all of the school's energy. And what's super awesome about it is, unlike regular solar powers, these sunflower petals move with the sun. So all day long, the sunflowers are moving, collecting all the sun, so it's super efficient. They have organic gardening, tons of vegetable beds. A lot of these vegetables go back into their school food, and then they are composted after, so it's a constant cycle of renewal, which is super awesome. And again, these kids aren't being brainwashed here. Instead, they're eating good food. This was a picture of the school bus, and on the floor, and more beds. Back there is Jeff King, her husband, Rebecca, and the gardener. And the view is spectacular from up there. And we had to get on a little teeny golf cart to go all the way to the top. It was lots of fun. Here's an example of healthy school food when you don't have Big Ag's influence. I want to show you how good it gets. So this is the menu for this coming week. So they have a holiday on Monday for Columbus Day, and then Tuesday they have apple cinnamon Rice Krispies, and then lunch they have a sausage pizza, which is completely vegan, as is everything, mixed steamed veggies and red grapes. Wednesday, cinnamon oatmeal with raisin nuts and chopped apples. For lunch, Mediterranean roasted vegetables, yellow dill rice, roasted garlic hummus, whole wheat pita bread, and oranges. Sounds good to me. Puffed rice cereal, nut milk, and bananas. And then pesto chickpea wraps, autumn apple, kale, quinoa salad, and strawberries. Do you realize that in most public schools, the kids aren't even familiar with these words? And yet these kids are actually getting to eat the food and grow a lot of it too. And for Friday, cinnamon pumpkin scones. Can you imagine vegan cinnamon pumpkin scones for breakfast at school? How good is that? With apples. Macaroni with chickpea and garlic rosemary oil. Maple roasted kabocha squash and cantaloupe. I think any of us would be happy to go to school there. So it shows you it is possible and it's being done. And this is why Big Ag is so darn scared. People are making it happen. I took a picture of a gentleman. I'm not sure what role he played there, but he was coming out of the cafeteria, so I snapped a quick shot. I think he was having vegan pizza that day. It's a little bit light in here, but this shows you the wonderful array of their salad bar. It's huge, and everything is delicious and fresh. It's not just Muse, vegan foods popping up at schools all around the country. Here's an example. I wanted to, this one's from the Grimway Academy, Nutty Noodles, and that looks super delicious. I want to give you an example of a couple public schools too, because a lot of people say, well, yeah, private schools, sure, they can do whatever they want, everyone's rich there, which isn't always the case. But anyhow, here's some public school examples. Noki, which looks really good, from the Davis Joint Unified School District. And then Rockin' Moroccan Stew from Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. That's where I went to school. I would have loved to have that in my meal when I was a teenager. Luckily, my mom made me lunch, so I didn't have to worry about school food, which was great. But this is what's possible. This is what's being done to counteract Big Ag's influences. University of North Texas just got a 100% vegan dining hall. It has vegan sushi, seitan, and pizza, made-to-order paninis, and fresh desserts. How many people heard about that? The sales have gone up since they implemented this. And when I helped get soda and junk food out of schools, sales went up there too. So people will scare you and they'll say, watch out, kids don't want healthy stuff. Sales are going to go down, we'll go broke, we won't be able to support all the other programs. That's not true. If you do it right, it does go up in sales. Top tips, use students as change agents, young people, whenever possible. Whenever you're trying to counteract what Big Ag is doing, for whatever reason, people listen to kids and they feel bad saying no at school board meetings and letters and things like that. Not that we as adults aren't important, but whenever you can involve kids in the matter, try to do so. After all, that's what they're doing too. Also give success stories and make sure they'll be financially secure. Also think about what worries someone. Most of us here are in it for the animals. Some are also in it for health and the environment too. But try to think when you're trying to create change and try to get away from Big Ag influences, think about the community you're trying to change and what's important to them. It might be money. It might be sports. It could be a number of things, but that's what they care about. Unfortunately, they won't always just listen if you say, the poor animals. Also, try to plan some vegan Earth Day health festivals. Every April, there's the Earth Day festival. What better gift could you give her than going vegan or encouraging other people to go vegan? Encourage activism. And again, if you can involve children, that's great. This was at a Mercy for Animals event. Some mom brought her kids, and they were involved in the activism. They knew from early on what was going on. Also, coordinate taste tests. This is over 10 years ago, my students doing taste tests at a high school. Over 10 years ago, giving out silk soy milk. We're in a population where most of the kids were lactose intolerant, so it was good for them on multiple levels. As most people actually don't tolerate lactose very well, and some people think you should really say you're lactose tolerant because that's the minority. Guest speakers. Invite guest speakers all over the place. They're out there available. Here's one example, Factory Farming Awareness Coalition. They are happy to come out and speak at different events for you. Also teach vegan cooking classes. You can't see this too well, but this is my little vegan cooking class from 2 weeks ago. I decided I wanted to see how well kids could cook the recipes in my book, which isn't out yet, but I thought, hey, if kids can cook it, it's got to be pretty easy. And so they made all sorts of stuff that they hadn't tried before. And what was really neat is, a lot of these kids had never even had tofu before, and first instinct when they put it in their mouths is to spit it out, like, wow, tofu, in their brain, like, that must be horrible. But one little girl who did that by the end of the week, because we made it every day so they could get better and better at all these things, she asked for the recipe to take home so she could make it for her family. It was really sweet. There's the proud face of someone making food, which in and of itself is pretty cool because so many families just take food, on the go, and there's less and less cooking at home and less empowerment and control over your food. So just teaching them how to cook something that's easy and delicious in and of itself makes them feel good. Like, wait, I did that and it's healthy. I love this. I usually don't say you need gadgets because you definitely don't need gadgets to be vegan or vegetarian, but I did bring in a spiralizer so they could have extra fun with fruits and veggies. They had so much fun with it. They put a beet in, did it real fast. They just wanted to spiralize everything they saw. And then they made a big salad for the faculty to enjoy because the faculty was actually selling grilled cheese sandwiches to raise money for something. So here the kids were cooking something healthy to counteract what the faculty was doing. Also, I encourage you to go visit farm sanctuaries like Animal Place, Farm Sanctuary, and all the other good ones out there. How many people have been to an animal sanctuary? They're fantastic. Usually they have rescued animals from the industry, and they allow children to participate, getting to know animals in a mindful way without going to zoos and circuses. Again, we don't want to desensitize them with that either. And when you go to these places, they also tell you what's going on. They explain what the big ag industry is doing. They show you, unlike that cart with the cow, they show you really what's happening to the baby cow. And you can be the change in multiple ways in counteracting all the food politics. You probably don't need any of these things, but I do have them in back if anyone needs stickers or how to go vegan type of pamphlets. I did bring a few with me extra if anyone wants any. I also have some book events coming up. Vegan Republic, do you guys know where that is? Yeah, I'll be at Vegan Republic November 4th. That's run by Animal Place. And I will also be at Romans, which is one of my favorite bookstores ever in Pasadena. And also at Barnes & Noble, which is up here in the Bay Area. I got to pick which Barnes & Noble, and I picked the one in Emeryville, which is the closest to Berkeley, where I went to school, hoping that I get some nice Bay Area folks to come and visit. You don't need to purchase anything to go these things. Just showing your support helps other authors who write about plant-based living get to go. And my book is not just about food, it's about cosmetics, it's about clothing, it's about the full range of being vegan, not just a plant-based diet. It goes far above. So that'll be out soon. And I'd be happy to take any questions. I don't have no clock up here. I don't know if I went really fast or slow. Do we have time for questions? If anyone has any questions. Thank you. Yes.
What are some of the vegan cosmetic lines?
Well, one really, like an inexpensive one, or I like to promote inexpensive ones just because mainstream America, myself included, can't afford a ton of the really fancy schmancy cosmetics. But one example would be e.l.f. Have you seen that at Target? e.l.f. So there's lots of cruelty-free ones, but that's one that's at Target and all over the place that's easy to get. That's just off the top. E.l.f. And what's interesting is some of these products are inexpensive because they're made in China. But if they're made in China, animal testing isn't mandatory, but if they're made in the United States and you want to sell them in China, then you have to test on animals. So it gets a little bit tricky. Yes. Have you heard of Gabriel Cosmetics? Yeah, that's another one that just pops into my head. I'm actually thinking about getting some of their stuff. Yeah.
I heard at news school, they're just plant-based. They're not vegan. They do dissections and they also keep a hawk, like as a pet. Is that correct?
Well, when I pushed them to that area, questioning, I didn't get to go in all the classrooms. They did say that they consider themselves plant-based as far as the food. But when I asked them about pet overpopulation and all the other issues, they said they don't really go into that. So you're correct in saying they're plant-based as far as their cafeteria. I love them for that. I'm the type of person who is still saddened, of course, by any animal abuse, but I fully support steps to get there, 100%. I went vegan pretty quickly, 10 years of being vegetarian, but when I found out what I still wasn't doing to help the animals, it was pretty quick for me. Within 30 minutes, I was vegan. But for a lot of people, it just takes those steps. So if we can have good examples of healthy plant-based food, I'm happy about that. And you know what? In time, who knows? They might change that too. The other stuff. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the small farmers that were ending their business and then their animals got bought and slaughtered. Has anyone ever tried working with those type of small farmers to move their animals to a sanctuary and then transitioning to a plant-based agriculture instead of like having them switch from animals to plants?
Right. The only problem with that is they bought them out, and I have a feeling that most, animal rescue organizations probably could not have afforded to buy them out. They often take in, 1 or 2 cows or pigs or even, 100 chickens sometimes, but they sold because they offered them the big bucks. So sadly, I think in this situation, there might not have been an easy out unless someone could have come up with the funds. Again, they all did this kind of secretly, so I don't think anyone even knew to go in and try to stop it, because I don't think people knew when they were buying it that they were buying them to kill them. That just came out later. But yeah, that ideally would be great. Oh, fantastic. Thank you. I do not have a clock, but time is up. I'm happy to hang out if anyone has any individual questions. Again, thank you very, very much for being here. I know it's late on a Sunday, so I didn't expect this many. Thank you.